Spider-Man, Spider-Man, spins the web, anytime, here comes the Spider-Man. Oh, hey guys, how's it going? My name is Storytelling Vlaire. I'm here to give you guys a storytelling review, and this week, I'm doing Spidey First Day. It's written by Robbie Thompson, and the art is done by Nick Bradshaw. It's a pretty cool story. I'm just gonna go ahead and break it down a little bit, see if you guys like it or not, so that you could read it. Don't worry about spoilers, so you'll still be able to enjoy this story after this review. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started on this review. So first thing, the art. It's done by Nick Bradshaw. And I gotta say, he did a really good job. I really enjoyed the artwork in this story. The thing that I liked about it the most, really, was it had a definitive look for all of the characters. And the animation is pretty nice, the way that he draws the action scenes and whatnot. And I think it looks a lot better than what the Amazing Spider-Man artwork currently looks like right now. So, Spider-Man. How was he done in the story? Well, it checked off all of his major characteristics. First thing is, he has great power. Second thing, he's a teenager. He gets bullied at school. Sometimes he has a hard time dealing with school, with homework and everything. He is in love with Gwen Stacy, and he's trying to pursue that, but he keeps getting blocked from that because he has an obligation to be Spider-Man. And even though he does great things as Spider-Man, the media and other people, they take advantage of him, and they make him out to something that he is not. So, in other words, Peter can never get a break, which is great. That is Spider-Man. But the problem is we don't see enough character moments about Peter and how he's dealing with it. He's not dealing with it like an actual human being. He's not frustrated. He's just kind of like, he's laughing at it. And I know that's the whole reason why he makes those quips with the bad guys. But when he's actually Peter Parker, I would really enjoy him to just be like, gosh, give me a break. I just want to be with Gwen right now. Or I want to focus on my schoolwork or something like that. Some real character moments. But this story is really devoid of that. There's one scene where a little boy gives Peter a sandwich, and Peter's really grateful about that. And he's like, wow, you know what? This is what it's like to be a hero. And it kind of, it recharges him. That was a great moment. And I wish there was more of that in this story. Spider-Man Blue did it best. Peter was talking to Gwen, and he was having a great time. The relationship was going forward. And then all of a sudden, Obligation came knocking on the door and told him, hey, you know what? Get out there. You got to do it. He goes out there. He does it. And he doesn't want to, You see the thought bubbles of him just saying, oh, gosh, I just want to be with Gwen right now, I want to live a normal life. But he remembers, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that is such an important thing about Spider-Man, is that yes, he wants a normal life and everything, but guess what? He's got this power, and he has to do something great with it. And I think that's really cool, and I think that's what sets him apart from a lot of other characters. And the story doesn't really play with that idea all that much, the story presents it to us in a very half-assed manner, and it's just ineffective. There's really just no drama in this story. And I think that could have been something that tied this entire series together really nicely. Okay, now his villains. They're shown in the right way, like Dr. Octopus is trying to rob a science lab, and Sandman is trying to rob a bank, Yeah, that's their characters, but that's it. That's all the story shows. And again, this is kind of an origin story. Maybe not for Spider-Man, but it's his first 6 months. So all of these villains are just now popping up. Why can't we see their origin? Or if not that, maybe Spider-Man and the villains first encounter with each other. Why can't we see why they hate Spider-Man? Instead of just being told they hate him, they hate him, they hate him, can we get an explanation for it? I'd like to see why, I'd like to read about that. That would be interesting. Why does Doc Ock take such an interest in Spider-Man? Is there more than just he gets in everybody's way? I think there should be. And I think this story had an opportunity to tell that kind of story. But guess what? It didn't. It played it safe. It just introduced them, said, oh, watch as Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus fight in a lab. Okay, that's it. Done. Next issue. Sandman. Lizard. It takes everything out of Lizard, too. It goes from being a tragic character. Instead, it's just, oh yeah, he was in prison for a while because I threw him in there. He just got out. Now he's the Lizard again. And then now I'm throwing him back in. And that's it. There's nothing interesting about it. There's no friendship between Peter Parker and Kirk Connors. And that's such a letdown for me, because you're just taking what makes those villains so interesting and you're leaving it out of the story. You might as well just have a bunch of cardboard cutouts of all of these characters sitting in a room and just take a picture of Spider-Man punching them, because that's essentially what this is. There's nothing interesting about it. There's no drama. There's no anything. It's just watch Spider-Man punch Otto Octavius. That's it. Come on. You know what I mean? Come on. Let's get some more out of this, you know? Now the story. Have I mentioned that every single issue starts off with his origin? Come on! I understand at the beginning of the graphic novel. I get it. The beginning of any story arc. I get it. You got to establish who he is. But at the beginning of every issue, do you just assume that audiences are only going to read one of the books, so you have to establish it in all 6? Oh my god, it's like getting hit on the head with a hammer every single time I start a new one. Great power comes great responsibility. I got bit by a spider. Then I used it for well. I decided I'm not going to be a hero. I understood with great power comes great responsibility. Imagine hearing that 6 times in one story, and each of the issues are at least under 10 pages. It's too much! I was sick of his origin even before I went into this book. And now I am done. Oh my god. I hope Homecoming doesn't play with that idea, because I will scream. Maybe I'll film it for you guys. I'll just, I'm done! I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. The Spectacular Spider-Man started off with it. Funny enough, Spider-Man Blue didn't really have it in there. It touched on it a little bit, but it didn't go into full detail. Now, as far as the actual story, past the beginning, it's so bare minimum. It's just like taking a cardboard cutout of Spider-Man, Otto Octavius, and putting him in a generic room and just being like, watch as they fight. That's it. That's it. That's all it is. It's just action. Just, ha 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 ha. I hate you, Spider-Man. I don't know why I hate you, but I hate you. And oh god, I'm Spider-Man. I have to do this. It's just, come on, there should have been more to this. You know? I felt like I was given the bare minimum of what it takes to make a Spider-Man story. I felt like Wikipedia would have been a more interesting read than this book. And that's the problem. When I'd rather go on Wikipedia and read about the death of Gwen Stacy or Otto Octavius' very first introduction. You know? Probably that would have been more interesting. Hell, I'd recommend someone just go watch the Sam Raimi movies. There you go. You got everything you need to know. His story is just bare minimum. There was like no effort into tell a larger story, to tell something over this 6-part miniseries. Instead, it was just, you want to see Spider-Man at his youngest age? There he is, in a room with Otto Octavius. It's not interesting. I have a theory. I think the reason why this story was made was definitely because of the backlash of the Amazing Spider-Man that's going on right now, about him being rich. So they needed to pump out a story of him going back to his origins. And I think that's why they're doing the Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man right now, where he is going back to his origins, because this new stuff isn't interesting. So they're just like, oh, well, we got to go back to the beginning when it was interesting. But they're missing the point. It wasn't his age or the quips or the villains just being there that made Spider-Man interesting. It was the types of stories you were telling about a teenager with superpowers having an obligation to do good. That's interesting. Not Spider-Man, not Otto Octavius, not just the characters themselves. No. Just boil it down to a teenager with superpowers fighting supervillains who hate him, and he has the whole world against him. That's Spider-Man. And this story completely forgot about that. Just throw that out the window, because you don't need it. Honestly, a friend brought up a good point about this story. He said it's like eating popcorn. You know? Popcorn. Doesn't fill you up. It's not nutritious. Doesn't really do a whole lot for you. Kind of fills you up. Not really. It's just a little snack. And that's what this story felt like. A snack. You didn't get full after reading it. You didn't take anything away out of it. You just said to yourself, I think I'm going to go eat some real food, though. You know? That's how this story felt. And that's... I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like writing a story for the sake of writing a story about a certain character. You know, if you're going to do that, you know, find something interesting about them and then tell that story, you know? Don't just take elements of a character and just say, oh, as long as we put them in there, that makes a compelling story. No, it doesn't. No. Writing an interesting character or an interesting story makes a good story. I know that sounds kind of silly. Writing a good story makes a good story. But you know what I mean. And I feel like anybody could read this, to be honest. I feel like this would be a perfect bedtime story for any little kid who's really interested in reading Spider-Man or wants to know more about their favorite superhero. And for that, I would definitely say, yeah, you should definitely show it to or read it to whatever little kid wants to, you know, read something of Spider-Man, because I'm sure they'll love it. And this is a good story for that. As far as a full course meal, it's kind of weak. Kind of weak. So, let's get to my final thoughts. I love how at the end of the book, it has Spider-Man versus the Vulture, and Iron Man decides to help him. I wonder what that's from. So, my final thoughts of Spidey First Day is it doesn't feel like an interesting story. It doesn't have any interesting characters. And to be honest, I feel like anybody could have written this. Now, having said that, it still does feel like a Spider-Man book, just at its most basic form. You know? It's just at its most basic form. And for anybody who wants a little bit more out of their Spider-Man books, this isn't it. Anybody who wants to just read like a little popcorn Spider-Man story, just one little fun little book, this could be it. Anybody could read this. So, that's why I give Spidey First Day a 5 out of 10. It's average. Average. It's not bad by any means. It's just, it doesn't do anything great. It's just there. It's just an average story. If it looks interesting to you, then go ahead and read it. Honestly, I would recommend issues. Pick out whatever issue you want to read. If you find an issue of Spider-Man vs. Doom, read that one. Or Spidey vs. the Green Goblin, read that one too. But as a whole book, altogether, you don't need to read this whole thing. Anyway, I hope you guys like this video enough to like, comment, subscribe, whatever. That would really help out this channel, and I'd really appreciate that. But anyway, guys, I gotta get going. You gotta get going. So I'll see you soon. Later.